I'm mesmerized by these eyes. I'm so high, they watching while I'm mesmerized by these eyes. I'm so high, they watching while I'm mesmerized by these eyes. I'm so high, they watching while I'm mesmerized by these eyes. I'm so high, they watching.